on, I think Abhijji has said a lot of things about Dr. Swamy. It is absolutely overwhelming for somebody like me to be sitting here next to this living legend, as you rightly described him. And it's only fitting that this session is called the Warriors Adda, because I don't think, I used to always think if anybody personified the word maverick, it would be Dr. Swamy. He is a true warrior. He has always stood up for what he felt was right, and not really caring about what the popular society thought about it. And you took away what I was going to say. I was going to mention that incident from 10th August 1976, where you walked into Parliament, and when the last of the obituaries were being read, he stood up, and when he was not even supposed to be there, he stood up and said, "Oh, Mr. Speaker, you forgot to mention democracy, which has also died." So that's Dr. Subramanian Swamy for you. So Dr. Swamy, as I start, I think because it's called the Festival of Bharat, and I'm a proud Hindu, I'm a proud Bharatiya, and I grew up with the idea where, India stood for unity in diversity. We always took so much pride, right from fancy dress competitions in school to all the annual day events. Everywhere we looked, everything we read about, it was about the diversity of the country. It was about celebrating these differences, which always existed, whether it's caste, whether it's religion. All these differences have always been there. But suddenly, at 30 years of age, I hear this word, asahishnuta. And, never had I heard this word before, and my Hindi is pretty good. So how is it that a word like asahishnuta suddenly becomes part of the public discourse? And how relevant do you think is it for today's Bharat?
Well, first of all, it's irrelevant because we have such a history. Take the example of two of the tiniest communities which came from abroad to escape persecution. The Zoroastrians were called Parsis in India. And they had a country called Iran, which was occupied by Islamic forces, and everybody was forcibly converted to Islam. And some of them escaped, and the only place they survived was India. And when they came to India, they came to Gujarat. The Shankaracharya was there to receive them, and we built their fire temples. And they have lived perfectly in harmony with the Hindu society. And when the British left, they approached them and said that, like for the Anglo-Indians, we can make a special quota for you in Parliament, and because this Hindu community is huge, it will swallow you. And they said to the British, for 1,000 years, they've looked after us. Now you don't teach us about what the Hindus will do to us. You go. We don't need you here. We are quite comfortable with the Hindus. Even today, in key positions, the Parsis have been there. Chief Justice, Commander-in-Chief of the Army like Manik Shah, Air Force Chief, Attorney General, and much out of proportion to their small size of 60,000 people. And this is a tribute to the Hindus. Similarly, and they themselves gave that as a tribute to the Hindus. The Jews persecuted everywhere in the world. The only place they lived without persecution was India. And when Israel was founded, after their formalities of constitution, everything was over, the parliament passed a resolution thanking India as being the only country which didn't persecute the Jews. So with this kind of record, I don't think we need to bother about intolerance and tolerance, you see. And this is something they talk about. Who are those who are talking about intolerance in India today? Those who had participated in the emergency. They may not have declared the emergency, it was declared by Mrs. Gandhi and her cabinet. But there were intellectuals who justified it, who said that India is a poor country, it can't have this kind of freedom, and the freedom doesn't mean license, and all these ridiculous concepts. So I think just ignore it, and none of them will debate with you. And they'll only talk amongst themselves. They're a small crowd. We have to worry much more about seeing that the narrative in the media doesn't become doctored by these forces, both within India and abroad. Abroad, I can understand those who want to convert, engage in conversion, they are unhappy. Those who rue the fact that India has still evaded their control. It's openly spoken in the ISIS documents, ISIS, that terrorist organization documents, that the only country which was conquered, they say, by Islam, but didn't convert to Islam, was India. Iran converted, Iraq converted, that is Mesopotamia and Babylon. Egypt converted, all of Europe converted to Christianity. But this country, despite 600 years of Islamic rule and 200 years of Christian rule through the British, is still, despite all the machinations, is still 82% Hindu. So therefore, we are quite secure, we are not worried. And I think the only thing is that the media manipulation, which leads to brainwashing, is the one thing that we have to be careful about.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.